To our sorry. Welcome to our December edition of Ask the Expert. Dr. Yaden, you can come on camera as I get ready to introduce you. Welcome, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, welcome to our December edition of Ask the Expert, Thriving Through the Holidays, Mind and Body in Balance. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Dr. David B. Yaden, an esteemed associate professor and the Roland Griffiths Professor of Psychedelic Research at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Dr. Yaden's remarkable career includes a research focus on the psychology and neuroscience of psychedelic and psychedelic-like mental states. His work aims to understand how brief experiences can lead to long-term changes in well-being, and he is deeply involved in exploring the ethical aspects of these experiences. In addition to being the founder of the Psychedelic Archive Project and the co-founder of the Hub at Oxford for Psychedelic Ethics, Dr. Yaden has also authored numerous scientific articles and books, and his work has been featured by major media outlets worldwide. Today, we will delve into how we can maintain a healthy balance between mind and body during the holiday season and explore how making healthy choices can enhance our well-being during this special time of year. Dr. Yaden, welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today. Before we dive into our questions, we would like to get to know you a little bit better. I know you're not a stranger to our Medicine for the Greater Good crew, and we take a similar approach. Please tell us something interesting about yourself that is not applicable to your work.
Okay, well, great to be here. Thanks so much for the intro. Let's see, something interesting about myself not related to my work. I love good signage. So I don't know if I just tend to get lost easier than other people, but I get turned around in even Hopkins Hospital when I'm driving. So every now and again, I notice when a place has really, really good signage, I make a mental note of it. And I don't know who designs it or who put it there, but I'm grateful when things are well marked.
Noted. As a person who wears glasses, good signage is a wonderful thing for me. So I understand. And so I want to get started. It's the holiday season, and no matter what holiday that you celebrate, it comes with stress this time of year. And so I would love for us to dive in. Could you elaborate on like why the holiday season is often a stressful time for many people, despite it traditionally being a time for joy and celebration?
I think there's a lot of different reasons for this. I'll just focus on one particular one, which is expectations.
Mm,
I think sometimes our expectations can reach a great distance from reality, and that can be even more disappointing. So uh, I really don't like all or nothing thinking because I see it pop up in research again and again as something that creates a lot of stress and suffering. So I think sometimes we get sold through commercials and Hallmark movies and this kind of idea that everything's going to be just perfect and you're going to feel amazing. And then when reality doesn't quite match that, it can seem even more disappointing.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that you're right. Said there's an expectation, a lot of different types of expectation, but expectation nonetheless, that tend to put us in a place of anxiety, if you will. So, from your experience, what are some of the common psychological and physiological impacts of holiday stress on individuals?
Well, I think holiday stress is pretty similar to other kinds of stress, so it's just important maybe to just see it like that. There's nothing particularly special about it, but it's a good opportunity to remember what I like to say is go back to basics. And so well, I guess we'll talk about the things we can do in a little bit, but the impact is basically in the body. We get a lot of feelings of anxiety. This could be the heart racing, feelings of muscle tension, which can interestingly increase cravings of sugary, fatty foods, which there's a lot around, as well as alcohol. There can be a trigger for other kinds of substances. Um, and mentally, many of us, we all know how anxiety and stress feels, but one aspect is maybe particularly relevant to the holidays is this idea that we're alone in it, this illusion that everyone else is having this wonderful time and we're the only ones, feeling that anxiety, feeling the stress, feeling the disconnection. And
Thanks, social media. Social media has definitely played a huge role in making you feel like everybody else is doing it way better than you and they're more successful in their holiday ventures.
that's right. I should probably update from like commercials and advertisements to Instagram. People are only Instagramming their wonderful moments. You're not seeing all the in-between times where they're feeling just as stressed and anxious as anyone else.
That's an important point to bring up. I don't think that while some people know that, I don't think it's a forethought when you're looking at people celebrating and having a quote unquote good time. I don't think we take into consideration perhaps the stress that led up to that very moment or the one single 5-second picture that we've seen. So that's such a good point. And so with knowing that we have these levels of stress and with expectations that can lead to more anxious thoughts, that can lead to overeating or maybe grabbing a little bit too much to drink. What are some practical strategies moving in our lives that we can take to help kind of maintain our mental health and body balance?
So this is again kind of back to basics. And what's nice about that is all of this stuff is completely free. You don't have to spend a dollar on any of this. And it's all stuff that can be implemented right away. And I think the idea with the holiday season is we get out of our routine, so it can be maybe a little bit more difficult to implement. But I think that makes it even more important that we try to do what we can to inject these kind of healthy habits that I'm going to
Yeah.
describe. So, just to make this easy to remember, I'm going to talk first about stuff related to the body, and then talk about stuff related to the mind.
Sure.
Um, so let's start with the body, and I'm going to give you an acronym. The acronym is SED. And so you can remember what was said in this lecture?
Mhm.
SED. What was said? And that's sleep, exercise, diet. If you get those things right, you're going to be doing yourself a really big favor. And so you don't need to get them right all the time. And during the holidays, of course, you're going to get out of the routine, and that's totally, totally fine. But doing what you can to get these things right will make you feel better. So sleep, try to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Easiest thing to do is to set a timer of when you plan to go to sleep ahead of time, like a reverse alarm clock.
Yes.
And when that thing goes off, you say, "Oh, but I really want to watch the next episode," or get a snack. But if you stick to that reverse timer and give yourself the gift of a full night's sleep, you'll thank yourself generally in the morning. And avoiding caffeine late in the evening is a simple little trick that often helps people get to sleep.
And calorie reduction. Most of the things that have caffeine in it give us extra calories
Mhm.
too.
That's true. That's true. There used to be an old habit of having a coffee after dinner, and that is a bad move for most people. It really reduces sleep quality. So I'd suggest cutting off all caffeine in after midday.
That's
So exercise is the next one. It doesn't need to be in the gym, some kind of intensive workout routine. It can just be taking a walk. But the more you can get the body moving in ways that actually are enjoyable and feel natural and comfortable, the more you're just going to get a mood boost as a result of that exercise, and your body will thank you for that gift, and you'll you know, getting up off the couch is the hard part. But once you're on the walk, your mood will start to lift, and afterwards that mood will actually that lift will persist many hours and will help with sleep. So if you're having trouble sleeping, getting some exercise in through the day, these things feed off of each other. Which, speaking of feed, leads me to diet. So SED, diet. Um, Now, a lot of people may say that around the holidays, oh, don't eat this, don't eat that. I think that that just doesn't work. We're going to be surrounded by a whole lot of options that are going to be tasty, and and it's important to enjoy those aspects, I think. Um, so rather than a subtractive approach, I suggest an additive approach where you make sure that you're getting vegetables in. So in addition to whatever else you're eating, try to track down some vegetables and some salad, 5 a day, fruits and vegetables. If you can keep that going, what's going to happen is you're going to naturally reduce portion size of those cookies and those cakes. You still might try them, but you'll have fewer of them, and those vegetables are really going to help your system with digestion and feed into how you actually feel.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
it almost make
body.
it feel like it's my choice. My choice to eat less cookies.
Well, it's more fun to add something, I think, than to focus on denying yourself.
I think that's such a practical tip, because you're right. I think we tend to feel we take something away. Tend to feel like FOMO, we're missing out on something.
Right.
But being able to add or hearing that you can add something, it sounds more positive. And I'd like to throw a challenge on there. Be the person to bring the vegetable to the
Mm,
gathering. Be the person to bring a vegetable dish. Make a salad. Those are quick things for people who say, I don't cook. Throw a salad together. They have our pre-made bags all ready for us. But be the person to bring a vegetable, right?
that's something that even I can cook.
Right. It doesn't require boiling water or anything like that, just a salad. And I think that that is very practical because instead of relying on the host to have that vegetable that you know you need in your meal, you can at least ensure that it's on your plate because you brought it to the function, right?
Right.
And so and previously we talked about your background in psychedelic research. And so do you have any insights from your work on like, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't even talk about managing our internal. So we talked about our body with said. Let's go back to managing our internal.
Well,
Sorry.
they combine together. I would say what you were going to with some of my other research and how it might be a little bit related. But so we talked about body, we talked about said. Now let's talk about mind, and I'm going to give you another acronym just so you remember, because my memory, I forget things immediately, so I think acronyms are helpful. So PERMA is the mind acronym. Stands for positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. So I'm going to quickly take a little tour through each of these and give you a really, really practical, simple tip for each one.
Okay.
Um, so P, positive emotions. We have a research suggests we have a negativity bias. So we tend to focus on the negative. When we think about memories, we go to the negative memories more frequently. It's easier to think about things to complain about than to think about what to be grateful for. And so the idea here is to make it a deliberate exercise to focus your mind on a few things that are going well.
Okay.
And that's called a gratitude exercise. And so you can even do it right now as you're listening. Think of three things that happened to you today that went well, things that you're grateful for. Little things could be tiny things, and it could be big things. It could be um, watching my son take care of his little Kermit the Frog doll. Um, could be a good cup of coffee. that I had this morning. It could be a coworker helping me out with. I mean, those are all real things for me, but those are just examples.
Right.
And what you'll find is that you'll immediately feel better after that, and your mind is going to continue that process of looking for things that went well rather than only the negative. So that can be a really effective tool to boost your positive emotions. So second is engagement. Now, I'm guessing most people who are listening have had the experience of engaging in a hobby or some other activity, and you look up at the clock and hours have gone by,
Yes.
and you didn't even notice the time passing. So we have these things that we can do. It's just that we don't necessarily allow ourselves to do them. I think we get kind of caught up in just doing other things, and we forget to do the things that actually really do engage us. I'm looking over here. I can see my guitar sitting in the corner of the room. I haven't picked that up in a couple weeks, but that's one of those things where I knew that if I picked it up, it would reliably engage my mind and leave me feeling much more relaxed and feeling enjoyment. R is for relationships. Again, we talked about this in the beginning, right? This illusion of isolation. We a lot of times we think it's just me, and then there's everything and everyone else, and you can even feel lonely in a crowd. And so the idea here is when in doubt, reach out. So if you're feeling that sense of illusion of isolation creep in, just reach out to someone, anyone, and have that human contact. And usually, what you'll find is there are other people who are dealing with many of the same things we are, especially during the holidays. Other people out there who say, "Oh, this is more hyped up than what I'm experiencing," and then you can be in that together, or you could enjoy the good things as well. M is for meaning. And with this, I think the idea here is connecting to something larger than yourself. That can be volunteering, that can be a community organization, um, that could be Sydney Kimmel, or that could be a faith community, or that could be family. There's a whole lot of options there. And lastly is accomplishment. And so that's just about setting a goal, any goal, and accomplishing it. So it could be something small, like tonight I'm going to do the gratitude exercise, and the feeling of accomplishing something, even if it's small, um, is really good for us. It makes us feel good, and it's a kind of feed forward effect where we want to set another goal and we want to do something else to take care of ourselves.
That's such a great point. And I think when you go back to R for relationships,
Mm.
um, I think sometimes we and our emotions, sometimes we tend to think that, oh, if I reach out to this person, they may not want to hear from me or they're busy. It feeds into that negative kind of mind space that we tend to take ourselves into. And then we end up isolating ourselves unnecessarily. I have done that recently, like, oh, I'm not going to reach out because they're probably not going to respond. And the response couldn't have been more opposite than what my mind had already prepared me for. And so I think those are great practical tips to remember because it's easy to get swallowed up in our brain and thinking that I'm by myself, and it gets hard, especially during a time where the world tells you you're supposed to be around other people.
That's right,
Yeah.
right. So I know I kind of went through body and then I went to mind, but hopefully you noticed all of these things are totally related. So the mind and the body are in fact the same.
Yeah.
And so sleep is going to give you more positive emotion. Exercise is going to be fostering engagement. Um, Diet is going to make you feel better. Reaching out is going to boost positive emotion. So all of these things are totally intertwined. And and it can seem like a lot, I know I listed a lot out, but if you choose to set a goal on any one of these, on sleep, exercise, diet for body, or PERMA for mind, positive emotion, engagement, relationship, meaning, accomplishment. Set one goal, right now on any of those, And all of these things are going to be affected in a positive way. We call that a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious cycle.
I love that. And you know what? I'm going to have our listeners take your challenge on right now. I have a quick poll that is going to ask a question, two questions. And if you can just pop your answers in, they're anonymous. And one of them is says, what do you find to be the most significant source of holiday stress for you personally? And then the second question is, what do you think the best way for you to handle that stress is? Based off of our conversation that we just had, uh, type your answers in really quick. Let's see if anybody had some similar thoughts or similar concepts that Dr. Yaden has already mentioned.
As a researcher, I love this. See some data here.
Oh, I love data. We love data here at COE. Anytime we can get some community input, we are going to try to get it, okay? So the answers are rolling in. I'm going to give it about 10 more seconds. It looks like we have a nice split. And once I end the poll, I will share the results so that we can briefly discuss them. And I'm going to close out the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending the poll. Let's share the results. Can you see the results, guys? Can you see them, Dr.
I
Yaden?
can. Yes.
Perfect. So it looks like we had some financial pressures and gift giving expectations. There goes that word expectations again.
Yeah.
Family dynamic and social obligation, maintaining physical health and well being. These look to be some of the most significant sources of stress for our viewers so far. And it looks like some of the common ways, setting realistic expectation and boundaries, and then seeking support from family and community. That goes right into the R from PERMA of relationship. And I think setting realistic expectations and boundaries, I think that can go for the P. I think that's a positive way of controlling your emotions, if we know what to expect, right?
I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of interpersonal dynamics that come up in the holidays, absolutely. And a lot of that I think is just completely necessary, just comes with the territory. There's no way to avoid those things, and in fact, I think that a lot of clinicians would advise against trying to avoid entirely, any family or friends who make you a little uncomfortable. I mean, if I'm not talking, I'm just talking about a little bit of discomfort,
Right.
and moving into that and through it is probably the way to approach.
And so even in taking a pivot, and the way that you've been able to give us information today, how has the research you have done, and while it might not apply directly to this, but are there any insights from the work you have done that have led you to kind of choosing this more practical route of this is what well-being is, this is what balance looks like?
Yeah, so I study psychedelics, usually in the context of clinical trials for treating mood disorders like depression, issues like chronic pain or OCD. And you might think that, wow, psychedelics therapy, that's so far out. It must be some it might even sound almost like this magical kind of mental state. But I think that what's interesting is what we see is a lot of the kinds of things that participants report helping them are very close to home. And it's like I keep saying, this sort of back to basics sort of approach. This idea of participants for whom psychedelic treatments do work, and they don't work for everyone, will describe more feelings of positive emotion like gratitude for things that they already have. Sometimes gratitude even for um, people and things that are difficult as well. Family members who there's some difficulty with, they'll even express gratitude there, or work colleagues, or work itself. And so there usually is this kind of shift in perspective that we can bring about by looking at normal things in our life through a slightly different perspective, um, and getting out of our kind of normal rut of maybe seeing them in a more negative way. So any kind of shift in perspective that can allow us to see our lives and other people from a slightly different vantage point can sometimes be helpful.
I agree totally. The old saying, a broken clock is right twice a day. And I think that there's something to be learned even from the things that we may not see as traditional or whole or perfect, if you will.
Mm.
And so it seems like have been a lot of benefits that you've gained from that research to be able to bring to people that might not necessarily suffer from OCD or depression, but um, kind of wane in the in between. Because I think every day we all feel that roller coaster of emotions, whether we stay stuck in the moment or not. But that there seems to be some benefits in that can kind of cross over, if you will.
There can be, yeah. So I would say in addition to that sort of shift in perspective that can occur, we often, not always, but we often see a kind of feelings of connection. So we talked about this before, this illusion of isolation that can happen where we think, it's just us and we're alone in it, by ourselves. Sometimes these feel people report participants report feeling deeply connected to things around them and other people, and nothing has changed objectively. It's just a shift in perspective again. So seeing that other people are going through similar kinds of circumstances, and we're all in the same boat in
Yeah.
a certain way. So that can sometimes happen.
Yeah, being able to see through the fog and realize that, hey, I'm not out here by myself on this boat. It does feel a little bit better. I have a couple questions in the chat. One was it says mindfulness is a widely recommended form of meditation. Do techniques like transcendental meditation or others work as well for, I guess, stress reduction?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different forms of meditation. Some of them have been studied a lot, and some of them have been studied a little. Um, so probably no surprise, but as a researcher, I tend to favor the ones that have been studied a lot because we know more about um, the procedure of how to do it, and we have some more safety information, and
Yeah.
we have a little bit better sense of what works well. Um, so that's the reason why you'll hear a lot of researchers talk and clinicians talk about mindfulness. It's just the most studied. There are other forms of meditation, as well as other contemplative practices like prayer, for example, that are more rooted in a particular religious tradition. I would say that most researchers will recommend mindfulness because it's been kind of taken out of any kind of religious kind of context, and anyone can practice it
Yeah.
regardless of your belief system.
Hmm.
But that's not to say that other forms of prayer, like in Christianity, there's a centering prayer, which is basically a kind of meditation. It's just been less studied, I would say. Um, Transcendental meditation, which the question mentioned, there's been some research, not nearly as much, but I do understand that it costs money. And so I started this whole thing saying I really like uh, the kinds of things that cost nothing, and are things you can put into practice right away.
Yeah.
And so I'm less familiar with transcendental meditation, but I do understand that there's some costs associated with learning it. So me personally, I tend towards the more studied stuff and the free stuff.
So there's a follow-up question from the same person. It says, thanks. This made me think about apps like Calm. It is highly advertised, but is there evidence that of its effectiveness?
I have to say I don't know off the top of my head that particular app. I know there has been some work on apps of a similar kind. I think basically these apps can be very kind of highly visual and have a lot of bells and whistles as part of it. I have the sense that they're probably the best part of them is that allows you to set a timer.
Mm,
Um, and kind of like the reverse alarm, like the alarm to remind you to go to sleep at a reasonable hour. If you set a reminder, like a calendar reminder on your phone, like remember to meditate in the
hmm.
morning or the evening, I think that's going to probably get you almost all the way there. It's going to be most of the benefit of the whole app is just going to be really setting these reminders that annoy you. You want a reminder that's gonna like flash up and you think, "Oh no, yeah, I did want to do that." And then the
Right.
first, it's like exercise. The first few minutes are kind of painful, but then you start to feel calm, you start to feel
Right.
relaxed, and you feel the benefits. So I know some of these apps are free, some of them cost money, and a lot of the social media advertisements are for things that cost money. And so, and people can sometimes get into this trap of having this great intention to take care of themselves to feel better, and they end up spending a whole bunch of money.
And you
So
don't feel any better.
that, yeah, and I just try to reiterate, that you can do all of this stuff for free and you can start right away. And so that's why I try to reiterate the kind of back to basics approach, and I favor like a lot of simplicity.
Yes,
So,
and speaking of free, like I don't know if anybody with an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch, there's usually an app that will say take it's time to breathe, and they have haptics where it'll tell you like when to inhale and then when to exhale, and it pops up maybe every couple of hours. Again, another
uh,
free resource that's on your watch from your phone. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but my watch does that for me, and it's like it's time to breathe, or hey, take a
wow.
walk.
Does it work?
Yes, because it's annoying on your wrist. And
There you
sometimes you
go.
can't help it because the haptics kind of happen in a way where you're supposed to breathe. And like it kind of grows for your inhale and it kind of decrescendos for your exhale. And so now you kind of find yourself just going with it because it's happening on your wrist anyway.
Huh. Oh wow, that's great. Yeah, I don't know of any data suggesting that's effective, but it's interesting to see these efforts to try
Right.
to
And I
support
agree with
health.
you. And I agree with you about it being free. I've heard of the apps like Calm. There are a couple other ones that I've heard of, but sometimes it takes away the accessibility factor and for people who may not be able to afford that on a regular basis. And then it creates a whole set of other negative emotions that can associate with, well, I can't get this kind of help because I can't do it myself. It can kind of just snowball. So I
Right.
really like these practical, free, anybody can do it tips that you're giving. I still have some going off in the chat. So it says, I
Okay,
don't know
great.
if you touched on this already, but why is depression or sadness more common in the winter?
Yeah, so maybe some people have heard of SAD, seasonal affective disorder, affect just being about emotion. I think that there's still research going on about this, but one of the major reasons, as I understand, is the change in light. So the days get shorter, we get much less and colder, and so we get much less natural sunlight on our skin. Um, and I think there's some evidence for, I don't know how strong the evidence is for certain kind of lights that you can buy that kind of mimic sunlight. Um, but again, try to go the back to basics, simple kind of way before spending any money, um, which is to prioritize taking walks. So you can get sunlight in your eyes and your skin just by taking a walk, and with enough layers on, you'll be okay. It's all
We
about
can
the
brave
layers.
this cold. It is so
This week
cold.
is cold. Yeah, this week is cold.
I
But I
think that
think, yeah.
I agree with that. Taking like, because for me, it gets dark outside, and my body is like, it's time for bed. It's time for us to make our dinner and get ready for bed, and it's 5 o'clock, and not really anywhere time for bed, and so trying to take advantage. What about for people who work? What are ways they can take advantage of getting some sunlight when maybe taking a walk might not be feasible?
Yeah, so yeah, it's maybe more difficult depending on your schedule. If you can't get early morning or evening sun because of the season, a lunchtime walk may or may not be feasible. Um, some of these lights might be helpful, but again, this kind of back to basics. If your sleep and your exercise and your diet and you're reaching out to other people, if you're doing all of that, if you have that down and you're still feeling depressed, then that's one thing. And then you can start thinking in terms of these lights and other things. But I would go back to these basics and making sure that they are um, that you have those down first. So the basics are down. I should also say none of what I'm saying replaces um, evidence-based psychotherapy or pharmacotherapy by a psychotherapist or psychiatrist. Because I work in the Department of Psychiatry, I'm pretty confident that all of my colleagues would endorse what I'm saying about physical wellness and mental well-being. But I do want to make the point that none of what I'm saying should replace any kind of psychotherapy or medication. And if someone is feeling depressed, we do have evidence-based treatments available that are underutilized. So I would encourage anyone who's even on the fence, feeling like, well, maybe depressed, maybe not. Um, it's an and, not an or. You can reach out and receive treatment as well as be thinking in terms of sleep and exercise and diet and socializing and so on.
Okay. And so, along the same lines of that, what are some of the key considerations individuals should keep in mind when making like food and lifestyle choices, especially as we consider what the holidays bring?
Yeah, I would say pick one or two places to start, um, and not to feel overwhelmed by this idea of like, oh well, I have to get everything perfect right away. So even just starting with whether it's sleep, whether it's adding some vegetables, whether it's trying to get an exercise, daily exercise in. Just start somewhere, anywhere.
Okay. And that starting somewhere anywhere, what benefit or does family support or community support play in this starting somewhere?
Oh, it's impossible to overstate the importance. Again, this illusion of isolation. We feel alone in these things. Starting an exercise group, sharing recipes, giving one another reminders. It just makes starting a new healthy habit more fun, but also more effective because we're social animals, humans. We need that social interaction to feel good. And so it's, that when in doubt, reach out guidance, I think is very helpful.
Indeed. And I think that the tips that you gave today are they extend beyond just this holiday season. Can you speak to how individuals can carry these healthy habits beyond the holiday season?
Yeah, I think holidays are a good place to start because of some of the extra stress, some of the family dynamics, some of those expectations that we talked about in the beginning, and just because the holidays move us out of our routine, and so it provides opportunities. So I think it's a good opportunity to start a new habit And when we do this, when we do start a habit, you give it enough time, it builds a kind of momentum and inertia, and you actually want to start doing it. You put in a few weeks of exercise, you'd be surprised. Your body kind of wants to keep that habit up. So I think it's a good opportunity. It is prompting us to take care of ourselves a little bit more. And after the holidays, you have an opportunity to continue that habit forward. But these
I
are all
agree
year
so much.
things.
Yes, they really are all year things. And I think building that momentum up in the winter is great because it kind of, for me, being in the winter, it kind of gives me a chance to fumble a little bit. And by the time it's warm outside, when I can do more of the activities that I enjoy doing, I feel like I have more, my feet more are more underneath me. I'm not fumbling through kind of solidifying the habit. And so I think this is a great time to join together with people in our community. And so what role do you think that the community events and webinars like this one play in promoting a culture of health and well-being in Maryland and beyond?
Well, I think human memory is a strange thing. I mean, we can remember things back years ago to childhood, and yet we can forget these kind of basic health habits that we know in the back of our mind, but exposing ourselves to encouragement and to these basic facts can be really helpful as opportunities to refresh these habits. So, I know these things. I've taught these things all over the world at this point. But I myself need to be reminded of them. I'm here setting goals for myself, and so I think this idea of in community thinking about ways in which we can take care of ourselves and one another. It's not just one and done. It's not just you learn about it once and then you know it. No, you need to expose yourself over and over, reset goals, and the extent to which you can do it in community, the better. In fact, there is some evidence saying that if you make your goal public, you're more likely to achieve your goal.
Hmm.
So I know you're reading questions from a chat, but if anyone's willing to
Share a
post their
goal.
goal, you can pop that in the chat, and the evidence suggests you're more likely to actually achieve that goal if you post it here in this community setting.
Share your goals. I will read them out loud for you guys. Share them. And while they're sharing goals, we do have a question in the chat, and it goes back to some of your psychedelic research. It says, can psychedelic therapy potentially help someone on a lot of anti-anxiety medications and alcohol that relieves stress, who is very accomplished and a successful individual in their career? So can it can are there is there evidence, I'm assuming, that psychedelic therapy can be of some assistance to people who struggle but seem to have successful careers, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing to importantly clarify is psychedelic can mean a lot of different things. So sometimes that term is used in an umbrella that covers ketamine, which is available as a treatment for depression, as well as things like psilocybin, which is what I mostly study, as well as things like MDMA, which is being studied in the PTSD context. And those are not approved as medications at this point. Um, so I know that ketamine does have strong antidepressive effects. I'm not sure about anxiety, but because depression and anxiety go together very frequently, it's possible that it could be effective. For psilocybin, which again is still being studied, is not an approved medication, but it may be in the next year or so, has shown some benefit for depression as well as anxiety and for substance use disorders like um, alcohol use disorder. And so my my current understanding of the evidence suggests that it would be effective for many people um, in terms of anxiety as well as the alcohol use. And it seems to be successful regardless of how successful or not someone is in their work life. So it's a medication that's again currently being studied. It may become a medication in the next couple of years, but something to keep your eye on.
So I have a follow-up question just from my own curiosity. When we look at these treatments that are to help anxiety, depression, and maybe alcoholism and things of that nature, I know a lot of like depression medicine is long-term use.
Mm.
Will this approach kind of reduce the treatment time? Is it a way that maybe somebody won't have to be on depression medicine so long?
It's possible. Yeah, there was a study comparing psilocybin to SSRI, which is a standard antidepressant daily use medication, and it showed that the antidepressive effects for both were about the same. And so if that holds up, if those effects hold up in studies that are ongoing, um, it suggests that psilocybin might result in antidepressive effects after a single dose that persist for many months afterwards. Now, that single dose can be a difficult experience for many. It feels very challenging. It's not an addictive substance. It feels more like people describe it as like running a mental marathon or climbing a mountain or something. If you've ever run a marathon or you can imagine it, it involves some nice views, some difficult moments, and a feeling of relief and joy when it's finished. But you typically don't want to wake up in the next morning and do it all over again. So psilocybin is the same kind of thing. It's a very intense experience, but it seems to have these persisting benefits that last for many months. And so it has a different side effect profile from SSRIs. Some people benefit quite a lot from SSRIs and they don't have any side effects. Other people benefit but also have side effects. Other people don't benefit at all. Some people have terrible side effects. So there's a whole spectrum. Um, and so it'll be interesting to see if psilocybin can complement SSRIs or maybe in some cases replace. And psilocybin will have its own side effect profile. Sometimes these experiences are very difficult. Sometimes people don't benefit. But sometimes they do benefit, and that's what we're seeing in a lot of our research. And they tend to benefit in a way that's persisting, and that's why so many people are so interested in these studies that are ongoing.
Oh, that is so interesting. And then I have one last follow-up question. Is there any use of, or do you have an opinion on the use of like AI in mental health and mind and body connection? AI is everywhere and it's getting integrated so much into medicine. So just wonder, do you have an opinion or have you seen it in a positive way in this arena?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing is that I'm very cautious about the use of AI for medical information and for any kind of psychotherapy application at this point. I would just say again, if anyone is um, questioning or on the fence about whether to seek evidence-based treatment from a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist or others, I would really encourage uh, using using those treatments and not thinking of AI as a therapist or as a doctor, your own personal. I do, though, think that there are interesting ways that it could enhance someone's attempts at enhancing their wellness and well-being. You know, I've had it make recipes that are healthy for me, suggest, say, oh, what should I have for dinner? Here's what I have, and it will suggest pretty creative, good recipes. It can suggest exercises. So I kind of use it as like a brainstorming partner where it can provide some interesting ideas and some guidance if I'm not feeling particularly creative at the moment.
That's a great analogy for it, a brainstorming partner. I too have used it for recipes, and then take the guesswork out of it for me. Give me the shopping list that goes with the recipe. What do I need to go buy so I can just go get it and not have to think so hard? It
That's
really
smart.
you gave
I
me the
love
recipes.
that.
Give me the list. What do I need to go buy? Because sometimes that can get overwhelming too,
Yeah.
trying to follow a recipe. And I brought that up because I have found it's a journaling app, but the journaling app has a feature of AI that says to go deeper. So once you finish writing, you can ask AI it kind of talks to you, if you will, and about what you've written, maybe what you've written in the past. And what I've found is that it kind of helps me reminds me of what I wrote last week and how my goals are aligning. So I found some help in the AI. By no means do I think it would replace a therapist, but it's helpful in organizing my thoughts. And so that's where this question came from, because I've heard about, oh, they're using it to with MRIs and X-rays, and they're using it in cancer research, but how is it being applied, if at all, in the mental health world? And so um, I'm interested to see where it goes. And I appreciate you. And in conclusion, do you have anything that you'd like to send us off with this evening as we sail into holiday season, trying to be our happiest selves?
Let's see. I would just say think about the basics and just start with one single simple goal that you can start on right away. I'm not here to overwhelm or to suggest that you need to get everything perfect to feel good. I would just start with something simple and put that goal in your calendar so that it bugs you enough to actually act on it.
Yes, I will be setting my reverse timer tonight for me to go to bed on time. I think that's my biggest takeaway from today is, you know what? A reverse timer is a wonderful idea. So I appreciate you, Dr. Yaden, for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. We're grateful that you had the opportunity to share with us and that we had the opportunity to learn from not only your experience, but from your research as well. We hope the audience leaves with the valuable strategies to enjoy healthier and more balanced holiday season and beyond. Please don't take these tips and just apply them to now. Please apply them to your 2026. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Again, Dr. Yaden, thank you so much for all of your evidence-based insight. We're appreciative of that.
Thank you for the great questions and the discussion.
No problem. Signing